best calendar or best calendar? Hi guys, so it might be the middle of April, but I'm doing my March wrap-up read because I can. And I was behind on my 60 book challenge, so in March, if I wanted to catch up, I had to read 8 books. And I read 9! So the first book that I read this month is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. So it is an autobiography, but the way she's written, it's very literary. It reads like a novel because of the way she's written the narrative, and it's written beautifully, but it's very tough and hard to read at parts and very heartbreaking at times, but I really enjoyed it. It's just a whole nother view into a world. It starts off when she is a small child and it ends when she's 16, and just her life in Stamps, Arkansas, and then moving back to California, then coming back, and just everything that happens in between. The next book that I read is Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls by David Sedaris. I've heard a lot of good things about this. For those of you who don't know, it's a collection of essays about his life. I liked it. I just expected it to be more funny, and some of the essays I just didn't really care about, but I still intend to read other things that he's written. So because I'm so behind on my reading, I decided to read a bunch of plays in order to catch myself up. The first play that I read was Chameleon by Bernard Shaw. I was familiar with the movie, which is My Fair Lady. So it's about this girl, Eliza Doolittle. She sells flowers, she's quite poor, and this man meets her, Henry Higgins, and he makes a bet with his friend that he can transform this poor flower girl into this high society woman, and no one will know her background. Everyone just would pass off that she comes from this like rich family. So that sets the stage. It's quite cleverly written. I really enjoyed it, way more than I expected to. The next play that I read was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee. Again, I had seen the movie a while ago. It's about this older couple, and they have a quite volatile relationship. They argue a lot, they're quite violent, but they're still together. It's a very unhealthy relationship, and they play these games with each other. It happens all during this one night. They've come back from some university party. They invite this young couple over, this very like wide-eyed, innocent couple, and they kind of draw them into their games and schemes, and it's just that. I wouldn't say it's for everyone, but it's a super easy read. I quite enjoyed it. The next play that I read is The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. Out of the 4 plays that I read, I enjoyed this one the most. It only has 4 characters. It follows a mother and her 2 children who are in the early 20s. The daughter is the eldest. Her name is Laura. She had an illness when she was a small child, which left her with a limp, and she's very shy, and she kind of isolates herself from the outside world. And then her brother, who's a little bit younger, he is the narrator of the play, and he's recalling this kind of moment in time that his mom and his sister go through. I just really enjoyed it. The atmosphere is very dreamlike. I would almost liken it to like a Sofia Coppola film. It kind of feels like you're floating, and it's sad, but it's sweet at times, and I just really enjoyed it. The last play that I read this month is Rough Crossing by Tom Stoppard. Tom Stoppard adapted this play from another play written by Nick Molnar, pronouncing that incorrectly, and it's about this group of writers and actors who are on a cruise ship going to New York to open a play on Broadway, and they're kind of rewriting it and practicing it, and things happen, and it's very funny. The first Tom Stoppard play that I read is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which I love. So then after I read that, I bought a bunch of his plays, and this is the second one that I read. I enjoyed it. And the last book that I'm going to talk about that I read this month is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I thought I was going to reread it later in the year, but I couldn't hold off. I wasn't feeling the greatest, so I knew if I read this, it would help me feel a little bit better. So I was trying to read it very slowly to kind of stretch it out. I love Rainbow Rowell, and this is the first reread that I've done. I just love it. I love Kath. Really identify with Kath. Before I had read any of her books, I kept hearing about her on BookTube, and a lot of people are like, oh, I really relate to it, and I just assumed it was the kind of Harry Potter fan fiction, being a fan and loving something so dearly and kind of being part of that world. But I just loved Kath because she's a little socially awkward, and she She sometimes isolates herself, even though probably that's not the best thing for her to do. Just kind of her adapting to university in a new situation, and I just related to it a lot. I love Reagan as a character. She's such a great character and it's such a great friend. My only complaint about this book is Kath writes fanfiction about this book series called Simon Snow, and it's very similar to Harry Potter. As you're reading, you're like, oh, it's like a wink to Harry Potter. This is Harry Potter, but she just doesn't want to say it, so she's creating this world that's very similar. And Kath is writing like Harry Potter Draco fiction, even though it's not. But this one moment they mention Harry Potter and it kind of like brings you out of it, and you're like, why? Why would you do that? That's my only complaint. I mean, it's fine. Totally fine. I believe Rainbow Rowell's next book is Simon Snow, which is exciting. So I guess if she never said that it's not Harry Potter, then maybe she wouldn't be able to do that. If you haven't read Fangirl or anything by Rainbow Rowell, I would highly recommend it. So that's it, guys. Those are some of the things that I read in March. Let me know if you've read any books that I've read this month and what you thought about them. Bye, guys.